Hi again. Now this is another property talk, and the hottest topics now is actually the latest cooling measure, which was actually announced late night on the 15th of December around 11 plus. Actually already asleep, but it was actually taking effect quite immediately. It's on the 16th, which only give you probably half an hour if you has the time to react. So literally, it was so different from the last cooling measure announced in 2018 during July, where we still have almost half of the night to actually run through. It wasn't like the last one in 2018, where you can see a long queue at the new project there, where I worked almost over 30 hours just to clear those options. This time was quite milk, and effectively, basically a lot of people doesn't have the time to react. So let's see what was this new cooling measures that will impact the market. Right, first thing first, there are actually three things that the government has implemented, tightening the measure. First, very important, is the ABSD. Okay, for the ABSD, if you are a Singaporean or a Singapore PR, if you're buying your first property, literally there's nothing changed on that. So for Singaporean first property, is still 0 ABSD. For SPR, it's still 5%. But if you're looking to buy your investment property on the second one, then the changes comes. Usually it's only 12% for the Singaporean. Now you have to pay 17%, which is a 5% increase. Whereas for the Singapore PR, the second properties will increase from the 15% to 25%, which is 10% increase. So for the third property, it's actually 15% increase to 25% for Singaporean, and that is a 10% increase in all. And for permanent residents, it was from 15 to 30%, which is a 15% increase. While probably for the second and third properties, the Singapore PR actually has no changes, but now we can see as you get more, and the second to third, there is a big increase of ABSD. Well, the biggest impact I would say will be for the foreign investors. From 20% used to be, now they have to pay 30%, which is a 10% increase. This one could have quite a big impact. We will discuss this later. I think the other one has a bigger impact is actually for buyers who are using company or basically a private entities to buy, and this one definitely the developers will fall into this category. For the entity, you have to only pay 25%, but the new measures come in, you have to pay 35%, which is a 10% increase. Okay, for developers, they have to pay a minimum 5% first. This is not refundable or remittable. On top, if they don't sell the units all within the stipulated time period, they have to pay a 25% formally. Now 5%, the 5% ABSD is still stay. On top of that, instead of 25%, they have to pay 35% if they don't sell all the units within the stipulated period. That is actually quite a big increase, especially for developer. Okay, so the second tightened basically measure was on the TDSR. So TDSR has been implemented since 2013, and today, formally before the announcement, it was 60%, and now a reduction of 5% to 55%. This is actually basically based on your total income. You can only use 55% of your total monthly income to actually to purchase, based on that income, to determine how much you can loan for your new purchase, and that is about 55% of your monthly income now. Okay, the other one, the third one, will be the LTV reduction. This is only for HDB. For the HDB purchaser, the resale purchaser especially, if they want to still get the loan from HDB direct, which we call HLE, home loan eligibility. Basically, this one used to be 90%, now it's reduced to 85%. But for those who are still getting a private bank, that one has no change. It still stays on at 75%. Okay, let's move on. So what does this has been the impact so far? Because it has been almost a month since the cooling measure has announced and implemented. Okay, what I observe or what we have observed is actually the market is still quite stable. There is no panic buying like what we see in 2018, and there's of course no panic selling too. So basically, it's actually what we say is quite stable. Nothing big has. Not many people are doing very big kind of movement. So, but there are some effect basically. So let's hook on to this. Maybe we touch on based on the HDB resale, what will be affected. So firstly, I want to touch on HDB resale. Okay, HDB actually announced one day after they announced the cooling measure, they're going to increase, if necessary, the supply of BTO to the market, because there is a double-digit increase on the price on HDB resale. This is something that we all along understand that HDB does not want it to happen. So it does happen, that's why the new measure, cooling measure came in, and it's not really surprised because we expected a few months ago, but it's actually sort of kind of least expected that they announce now and announce it quite late in the night. So we will see that HDB actually announced they will increase BTO by 35% if necessary, and that's why I estimate about 25,000 units yearly till 2025. So that is to slow down the HDB resale price from increasing. So, but what we expect, HDB resale will still continue to do well because we do see that the enhanced housing grant, which is an EHG, is still available, and a lot of new couples and families actually can use this grant to actually possible subsidize for their purchase in the resale. So despite the increase in the BTO, we expect the transaction will still carry on, but prices for HDB resale might be impacted. So it may not increase. In fact, we are predicting probably for certain locations, the prices may reduce. Okay, so even though the LTV has decreased from 90% down to 85%, it is not a big impact though, but it's the supply from the BTO that may actually dampen the requirements or the demand for HDB resale. So this one we will look out and basically let's see how the market goes. All right. Next one we will touch on is actually the new launches for the private condominiums. We expect RCR and OCR projects will continue to sell as the demands for more HDB upgraders. And we are going to see also a lot, which we already happening, that a lot of couples decouples, or they are buying a lot of condominiums with only a single name. And we also see an increase of buyers who are cash rich are buying through trust. So basically, if you are buying any property through trust, you cannot take any loan, so you have to be paid fully in cash. So we have quite a substantial number of this kind of investor recently for new launches we see. So we were going to expect more of this kind of purchase to avoid paying the ABSD. So young families continue to upgrade to new launches in RCR and OCR as expected, as long as it's still within their budgets. Okay, but the things that in CCR new launches, we are seeing a different scenario because of this high increase in the ABSD for foreign investors. We are going to see a little bit impact on the CCR. There's still quite a lot of inventory in CCR for new projects. So basically, we are expecting the developers to kind of soften the price or give more actually promo to attract the buyer. Though the foreign investors, we have seen it down, actually quite low for 2021 to come into the market. So basically, a lot of buyer in CCR recent 2 years are mainly for Singaporean. But because of these new measures, this buyer probably will wait and hold and see. And that is why we're going to see the impact of CCR new projects. The transaction volumes are expecting to go down unless the developer, even though the developer may come up with new promo, I'm not expecting the transactions to go up. But prices may still be holding or expected to reduce a bit for certain projects. So, but then for resale in the CCR, we are expecting the bigger units to actually still the sales go as well, especially for those freehold projects, because there's still a lot of upgraders trying to go in a bigger unit, as we can see. And especially for landed property, we are seeing the demand is definitely going to still be there, as the supply is pretty low. as the COVID situations, a lot of people are working from home, so the spaces need is quite in kind of a need for almost all family. So the whole things that need to get to see is actually the next new launch, which is Belgravia Ace, which is going to launch on 22nd of January. We have seen a lot of interest to actually come during the preview. In fact, the viewing slots for the preview was fully taken up actually right before even the preview had started. So we can see big interest because of the low supply of this kind of freehold landed especially. Okay, so for commercial in Singapore, the shop houses office building, we are expecting it to continue to do well due to the swing, probably the foreign buyer. Instead of going to residential property, they will be continue buying into commercial property, as we can see for the last couple of quarters or so. We have seen increase of foreign investor into commercial and office building. Okay. So, but the next things, what we're going to touch on, which is very interesting, because before these cooling measures, we already know the land bank for most of developer is depleting. So we are expecting the en bloc and GLS bidding will be very aggressive. As we already see the last few plots of GLS bidding, the prices has gone up, like the Amokyo and Lentor. We are expecting it to launch this year around 2,000 per square foot. So that is kind of a great expectation. So before the cooling measures, a lot of developers are ready. There's a lot of en bloc developments is going and negotiating and open for tender. But after this cooling measure comes in, we are going to actually expect the en bloc could be a bit dampened, especially for bigger plot of developments, because there's a higher risk for developer if they cannot sell within the stipulated period. There's 35% plus a 5%, which is compulsory. They have to pay is 40%. So bigger developments, probably en bloc is not going to be very good for you. The likelihood is going to be unsuccessful. But the medium to smaller developments like 100 to 200 over units, those kind of developments will have more interest. But how much are they going to tender after this? We will see the next few ones, because there's still quite a few pieces in the market that's open for tender or going to be open for tender soon. All right, but the first casualty we found is actually after the cooling measures been announced was High Point condominium in this CCR area. Okay, it was formerly successfully done. And then the developer was actually supposed to be Sun Tak from Hong Kong originally, but they actually sort of walk away from the deal by forfeiting their $1 million deposit. So this is the first casualty after this after this cooling measure has been announced. So, well, we shall see what is the next view, and especially the new launches will only be more active after the Chinese New Year. So at this moment, it's still too early to say, but our expectations was that transactions will slow down, price increase will slow down. For certain region, it probably will reduce. So this is our expectation. If you have any more that you would like to know, you can actually put in the comment sections and we will try to answer you. And if you have any experience during your negotiation now, do you find any problems, especially for resale buyer? I think you have an upper hand now as per HDR. Even the CCR, RCR, we expect the transaction to move on, but I don't think it will be like last year where the seller keep changing and move their goalposts, increasing their price. This year, I think the seller for resale unit, even though the transaction is going to continue doing well, but I think the price will sort of slow down a little bit, not increasing so much. So do give us a comment in the descriptions, and if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. I'm Jen Tan Property. Always love to hear from you.